All right, let's get straight into it. We're looking at a grove of mature olive trees, trees that are deep into their production phase. The timing for what we're about to discuss is absolutely critical. We're post-harvest in that late winter window. Now, from a physiological standpoint, the trees are dormant. They spent the last few months storing up all their energy, all those carbohydrates in their trunks and branches. So every single cut we make right now during this rest period is a powerful signal. It tells the tree exactly how to spend that saved up energy when it wakes up in the spring. Our whole goal here is to shift its focus, to move its energy away from making more and more wood and point it directly towards what we all want, making fruit.
So this really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's something growers with traditional groves see all the time. You have these big, beautiful, mature trees that look like they should be incredibly productive, but instead they seem determined to just grow more wood. Wood that you then have to spend time and money cutting off. So what's going on? Well, the answer isn't simple, but it boils down to a deep, fundamental imbalance in the tree's physiology.
And here's the kicker. This imbalance isn't just a one-time thing, it's a trap. It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. The way these trees are often managed actually encourages the very problem we're trying to solve. It creates this feedback loop of massive, vigorous growth that unfortunately is completely unproductive. And that cycle costs growers dearly in time, money, and of course, in yield.
Okay. So before we can talk about fixing the problem, we have to really diagnose it. We need to understand the dilemma these traditional groves are in. So let's break down the common structural and physiological flaws that got them stuck in this rut in the first place.
Now, what's really fascinating is that all these issues are connected. They feed off each other. You see, when you have these super high trunks, the tree has to work a lot harder to pump sap and nutrients all the way to the top. This weakens the flow, especially out at the edges. So where does the tree try to produce fruit? Way out on the periphery, far from its operational center, the main trunk and branches. And how does a grower typically respond? With really heavy pruning every couple of years. But ironically, that just panics the tree into growing even more unproductive wood to replace what it lost.
And this is that damaging loop I was talking about. The drastic pruning basically sends a hormonal panic signal through the tree. Its response is immediate, an explosion of vertical shoots, suckers, to try and quickly rebuild its canopy, its solar panels. But here's the problem. These shoots aren't fruiting branches, so the canopy just gets choked with wood. The fruit gets pushed even further out, and the poor tree is just wasting all its energy in this constant state of crisis and recovery. It becomes a system that is fundamentally designed to produce wood, not fruit.
So how in the world do you break a cycle like that? Well, the answer isn't another drastic intervention. The answer is a complete shift in philosophy. The whole idea is to move towards a gradual, gentle recovery plan that's based on physiology, one that works with the tree's natural tendencies, not against them. This quote from agronomist Vito Vitelli just sums it up perfectly. The first most important thing is to just break the loop. Notice he doesn't talk about a quick fix. He talks about a recovery process over 2 to 3 years. The whole point is to gently guide the tree back to a sustainable balance, to interrupt that destructive pattern and basically reteach it how to grow efficiently.
Now, the key concept here is something called vegetoproductive equilibrium. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but all it really means is getting the tree to a state where it intelligently balances its energy. It puts just enough into growing and maintaining its structure, that's the vegeto part, and the rest into what we want, a consistent, high-quality yield, the productive part. This new approach doesn't force a result. It just creates the right conditions for the tree to find this perfect balance all on its own.
All right, enough philosophy. Let's get our hands dirty, so to speak, and talk about the actual technique. How does this translate into a practical method? Well, we call it soft pruning, and it's really built on 2 main strategic moves.
It really just boils down to 2 key jobs. First, we focus on the inside of the tree. We need to hollow it out to open the center back up to light and air. Those are the engines for photosynthesis and good health. Second, once the inside is clean, we work on the outside. We shape and control the external canopy to keep the whole tree compact, efficient, and easy to manage.
Now, at the heart of this internal work is a technique that might seem, well, a little scandalous to some traditional pruners. It's called the moncontura, or the stub cut. See, normally you'd cut a branch off flush, but with this method, you intentionally leave a 15 to 25 centimeter stub. It looks wrong, but physiologically it's brilliant. It stimulates dormant buds on that stub to wake up and produce new, moderately vigorous shoots right there inside the canopy, which is exactly where we need to rebuild our productive factory.
And the whole goal of this internal hollowing is very specific. We're trying to create what we call a cone of light with a radius of about 1 to 1.2 meters. This is not about making it look pretty. When light can get deep inside the tree, more leaves can actually do their job. More photosynthesis means more energy for the plant. Plus, it creates massive airflow, which lowers humidity inside the canopy and seriously reduces the risk of fungal diseases. It's a core part of an integrated defense strategy.
Okay, so that's the inside. The second part is shaping the outside. The pruner basically decides on an ideal cylindrical shape for the canopy. Then, any branch that pokes out beyond that imaginary cylinder gets cut back using what's called a return cut. You trim it back to a smaller branch that's facing inwards. This literally redirects the tree's energy and sap flow, pushing it back into the productive zone we want to build up, instead of letting it get wasted on weak growth at the edges. But you might be wondering, what about those trees that are just a complete mess? The ones that are so far gone that this soft pruning might not be enough? Well, you're right. For those cases, there's another option. It's more drastic, but it's also highly strategic. It's so important to think of these as two different tools in your toolbox for two different jobs. The soft pruning, that's your annual maintenance and recovery plan for most of the orchard. The drastic reform, think of that as a surgical tool. You use it on a planned, rotating portion of your absolute worst performing trees to give them a complete, structural reset over a few years.
So when you see a trunk cut down like that, don't think of it as a failure or some kind of massacre like the old heavy pruning. It's completely different. This is a calculated business decision. You're making a long-term investment in the future productivity of that specific part of your orchard, and it's something you plan out years in advance.
All right, we've talked about the philosophy and the methods. Let's get to the good part, the results. What are the actual tangible benefits when you shift a grow from a wood-producing system to a fruit-producing one? The payoffs are, well, they're huge. From a physiological perspective, the tree finally finds its balance again. Photosynthetic efficiency just skyrockets because of all that new light. And from an agronomic view, the better airflow means less disease pressure, and even the ground cover gets healthier because more light is hitting the orchard floor. It's a win-win-win. And then there's the number that really catches everyone's attention. 4. As in 4 times faster. We've seen that pruning operations can potentially speed up by a factor of 4. Why? Because the canopy is simpler, it's more logical, and the goals for each cut are crystal clear. And what does that mean for the bottom line? A massive reduction in labor costs, which, as you know, is one of the biggest expenses in olive growing.
So let's zoom out for a second and bring this all together. What does this way of thinking, this new philosophy, really mean for the bigger picture of traditional agriculture? For me, this is the most crucial takeaway. Modernizing doesn't have to mean abandoning our heritage. The answer to an inefficient traditional grove isn't always to rip it out and plant some super-intensive imported variety. The answer is to apply modern science, modern physiology, to make our own unique, incredible local varieties sustainable and competitive again. It's about intelligent evolution. And that really leaves us with a final question to think about. If we want to preserve our valuable agricultural heritage, our agricultural identity, maybe we don't have to cling to every single aspect of tradition, especially the parts that no longer work. Maybe the most respectful thing we can do for our heritage is to help it evolve intelligently. So maybe innovation isn't the enemy of tradition after all. Maybe it's the only key to its survival.